The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, greetings. Welcome to another presentation in this public service nation building series, The Law and You, now in its 21st year. I am happy to be back with you after the Whit Monday Fisherman's Day public holiday. And tonight I will speak to you on program 864 on the topic, What is a Mortgage? But before getting into the topic, a few preliminary comments, which I will keep as briefly as possible. Firstly, my deepest condolences go out to all families which have suffered recent bereavements. And in that connection, let me mention two families. The family of my brother Muckett, a well-known gravedigger at the Kingston Cemetery, who was found dead a few days ago. And then just today I heard of the death of Mr. Randolph Gurley of Rockies, otherwise known as Bad Boy, who is somebody I've known since 1961 or thereabouts, when we went to live at Rockies. My sympathies go out to those families. And my concerns go out to the families of all those 6 persons who have been missing at sea for now over a week. I know officially the search is still going on, but hopes are fading for the recovery of any of the 6. Let me pray that the families may be kept fortified by the blessings of Almighty God. Let me also wish a speedy recovery to our Patriarch, His Excellency Bishop Edmund John, who was admitted to the hospital Saturday night and is a patient at the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital. May the good Lord bless and keep you, Bishop. Now, congratulations to the young Master Brung of the Kingston Preparatory School, whom we are told did so well in the CPEA examination. I looked at the story on one of the news outlets and didn't see any mention of the parents. And however, I'm sure the weekend newspapers will have the parents' names and hopefully copies of their photographs. Congratulations to all your parents and to all the students who have done very well in those exams, and to the teachers responsible for preparing those students, and for the parents for their nurturing of the future of the nation. We are nearer the launching of A Harvest Richer Than Gold, Dr. Cyrus's 4th book. We are 4 weeks away from the launching, and beginning next week, Monday DV, I will be reading extracts from that excellent book, copies of which are now in St. Vincent the Grenadines, and you can contact Dr. Cyrus at his home for copies of that magnificent book. I have read the entire book and have started rereading it. It's hard to put down once you get going. Congratulations once again to Dr. Cyrus, and I will continue approaching some of Dr. Cyrus's friends in connection with the preparations for the book launching in the first week in July. It just remains for me to wish a happy Father's Day next week, this week, Sunday coming, although officially, because Sunday is regarded as the first day of the week, I would be officially correct in saying next week Sunday, but you know what I mean. This Sunday coming, Father's Day, happy Father's Day to all the fathers of the nation. Okay, let us get into the topic for the evening. What is a mortgage? Firstly, the pronunciation. Even though the word is spelled M-O-R-T-G-A-G-E, it is not pronounced as mortgage. The T is silent, so the proper pronunciation is mortgage, as if the T were not there. Briefly, a mortgage occurs when one borrows money from a person or an institution on the security of real or personal property. Mortgage is not just house and land. You can have the mortgage of a ship, a boat, a launch. You can have the mortgage of a vehicle. Although in the area of vehicle mortgages, we normally refer to them as bills of sale, but the full term, if you borrow money to purchase a vehicle and you have to sign over the vehicle to the institution from which you are borrowing the money, the full term, you have signed a mortgage bill of sale. However, for the purposes of this program, I would like to confine the expression mortgage to the case where money is borrowed on the security of real property, that is land or house and land. First thing you need to know is that a mortgage of real property must be in writing. You can't have such a thing as a word-of-mouth mortgage of property. And unlike some other countries, and it is important you realize that some of our laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines are different from the laws in other countries. As near as we are to St. Lucia, Dominica, Barbados, we have a different system of conveyancing. They have the conveyancing of title by registration. We still have conveyancing by deed. So the document you sign up and the legal documents which are used for mortgages of real property in St. Vincent and the Grenadines would be different from those you would use in neighboring territories which have land registration by certificate of title. Now, it sounds a bit complicated, but as usual, I would boil it down to simple language. There are usually two cases in which money is borrowed on the security of property. The first case is that where the money is borrowed to purchase the property. The second case is where you already have the property, but you borrow money on the security of the property for some other reason. For example, to pay the university expenses of a student you have going to university, or to pay medical expenses if you have to go overseas for expensive medical procedures. Therefore, in our situation, one usually organizes a mortgage if one wants to buy property or buy land. And as I told you before, there's not much difference in law between land and land with buildings on it, because if there are concrete buildings which are permanently affixed to land or concrete structures or permanent structures on land, they are regarded as part of the land. So when I say property, I also mean to include bare land, even if nothing has been erected on the land, okay? Land would include, of course, bare land. It would include trees on the land. It would include crops on the land and so on. So I will use the term property, meaning real property, meaning either land alone or house and land. So if you are planning to purchase, to buy property, one way to be able to afford the money is to go to your bank and take it out of your savings. Say, look, I want to buy a property for $200,000 and I want to take the money out of my savings account. But that is theoretical. How many people, have savings where they can simply go and take out money if they want to buy property? So usually you ask an institution to lend you the money to buy the property. Now, except in a few narrowly defined cases, you would be expected to come up with a part of the money you want to borrow. For example, if somebody is selling a property for $100,000 and you are interested in buying it, it is only in some cases you would be able to borrow the whole $100,000. Such cases are in the case of first-time purchasers in the civil service. I know the government has organized a special programs to assist first-time persons who are borrowing for the first time, who are mortgaging for the first time. They may be able to borrow 100% of what they want to buy the property. But apart from that, the general population, people who are not civil servants, who want to buy a property, will first have to come up with part of the money. This is where your savings might come in. Let us say you're interested in a property worth $100,000 and you have savings of $25,000, $30,000, $40,000. Well then, the institution you go to organize the loan might say to you, you come up with $15,000 or $20,000 and we'll lend you the rest. That is the norm. So you take that money out your savings, or you might even borrow that money from relatives or trusted friends. But you have to show that you have a portion of the cost of the property you are interested in buying, and the institution would lend you the other portion. Now, a person can lend you money. There's nothing to stop a person lending you money to buy property, but then the person has to get legal advice as to whether they are complying with the Money Lending Act. I will probably deal with that on a subsequent program. So individuals can lend money to persons. Not if you're going to lend them as a business and lend Tom, Dick, and Harry, then you really have to get registered under the Money Lending Act. But let us say a relative is interested in buying property and you want to help the relative, and you want to put in, lend the relative at $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Nothing is wrong with that. But the usual case is that people borrow money mainly from banks, from credit unions, and in some cases from insurance companies. And of course from building societies like St. Vincent Building and Loan Association. So let me refer then to the financial institution that is lending you the money or that you want to borrow the money from. The procedure is that you go to the institution and you say, well, look, I've seen a property I'm interested in. I would like to buy it. The price is so and so. I have so and so. I can get so much, a portion of it, and I would like you to lend me the rest. And then they would follow a series of interviews between yourself and the relevant lending officer at the institution that you have gone to borrow the money. And in due course, the institution will approve the application for the loan and will say to you, fine, we are ready and willing to lend you X amount of dollars to buy this property. Now, that is where the mortgage comes in. Because when the institution decides to lend you the money, they will also tell you how you have to pay it back. And they will discuss with you the consequences if you don't pay them back the money you are borrowing. Of vital importance to you when you are arranging a mortgage will be the rate of interest. Now you hear institutions advertising interest rates of 8%, 7%, 6%. I know in the United States of America, people organize mortgages at the rates of 2 and 3%. I don't know how they do it, but that is their system. But in St. Vincent, I mean, you'll be lucky to be able to borrow money at even 5%. But if such institutions exist and if such arrangements exist, power to you. I said at the beginning that if you are organizing a mortgage, it has to be in writing. There is no such thing as a word-of-mouth mortgage. There is a document, usually it is several pages long, and usually you can't understand what it says because it is in dense legal language. But that document sets out all of the terms and conditions under which the institution is prepared to lend you the money. And you have to sign that document, and the document has to be registered at the courthouse. Then you can say you have a mortgage, but the document will have several things: the parties, the names of the persons who are lending and borrowing, or the institution's name and the name of the borrower. Might be a man, might be a woman, might be a man and woman together, might be two brothers or two sisters. Anyone that the institution agrees to deal with can be parties once they're over 18. A person under 18 can sign a mortgage. In fact, a deed cannot be placed in the name of a person under 18. Excuse me. A deed has to be placed in the name of an adult holding on trust for somebody who is a minor that is under the age of 18. So in addition to having the names of the parties, the mortgage document will have the amount being loaned. It will have the rate of interest. It will have a description of the property. And then it will have several other terms and conditions, giving the institution certain rights to the property if the loan is not paid up in accordance with what is set out in the mortgage document. Now, it is important when you go to an institution to negotiate a mortgage that you understand what they are telling you. It is important particularly in the case of the calculation of the full amount of the loan. And if you want to see what the mortgage is going to cost you, You multiply the monthly repayment times the number of months for which the loan will be made available to you, and you will get a figure. Use a normal cell phone will have a calculator, and you calculate how much the total would be that you would end up paying back. And when you compare that with what you are borrowing, you'd be shocked. You'd be shocked, because over the life of the mortgage, you could end up paying 3 times or 4 times the amount you have borrowed initially, depending on the rate of interest and the length of period over which that loan would be alive, because the loan carries interest at a certain rate. And in almost every mortgage document you will be required to sign, there is a clause saying that interest would be at such a rate or at such other rate as the institution may from time to time impose. So you can borrow money at an initial interest rate of, say, 7% or 8%, but the institution would have made you sign in advance an authorization to allow the institution to increase or decrease the rate of interest. Now, if they are decreasing the rate of interest, that would be good, power to you. But they will have the power to charge you a higher rate of interest in their discretion, and there's nothing you'll be able to do about that once they notify you. Usually, institutions would not activate that power, but it is there in your mortgage document. But mortgages are expensive things, and as I said before, if you want to see how expensive it is, multiply your monthly repayments by the number of months. And you will note that if you are borrowing $80,000 over a period of 36 or 48 months, you may end up paying 3 times the 80,000 you initially borrowed, because interest is a serious entity. You will start to pay back your mortgage month by month. You're paying you paid a year, 2 years, and you figure, well, look, you have really paid so much. You've been paying faithfully every month without default, and one day you feel like checking up and seeing what balance you have left on the loan to be repaid. So you go into the institution to check on your balance, if you haven't been getting statements or if you haven't been looking at the statements. And you'll be shocked to see how little your loan has reduced by over the 2 or 3 years you've been paying. And what will cause you to be shocked is the fact that when you pay back those monthly installments, the bulk of the installments go towards the interest and only a little bit towards the principal. So when you think, oh, you've been borrowed $80,000 and you've been paying back and you believe, well, look, you probably only have $40,000 left to be paid, and you go and make an inquiry, you find you still owe $70-something thousand, and you say, wait, I've been paying it. That is the nature of interest. But when you query, they will show you that these matters are quite proper and are referable to the mortgage document you sign. A couple more things I must tell you about mortgages. You have to pay stamp duty on mortgages. That when the mortgage goes to be registered at the courthouse, there's a fixed tariff set by law. And from budget to budget, you may hear changes, although sometimes they remain stable for a long time. And one of the things which surprised a lot of people, but it is standard, is that when you go to negotiate and sign up a mortgage, you have to pay the legal fees to the lawyer for the institution that is lending you the money. You can't say to them, oh, I have a lawyer, I will use my own lawyer. No. The standard practice is that you have to use the institution's lawyer and you have to pay the fees. It's all set out there when you sign and so on. You have to pay the fees for the institution's lawyer because the institution's lawyer's job is to make sure that the security is safe and sound. In other words, to make sure that your title deed is safe and sound. I believe I will have to continue with this topic next week, Monday, Divi, because there are some other aspects of mortgages that I want to tell you about that we would not have time on tonight's program to complete. So let us leave it for now. And keep in mind that if you have already arranged a mortgage, I will tell you what that means, because in St. Vincent and Grenadines, a mortgage of real property can only take the form of a conveyance of the property to the institution from whom you're borrowing the money, with a promise that when you have repaid the loan, they will reconvey it to you. So if you are living in mortgage premises, it doesn't belong to you right now. Until you finish paying that loan, it belongs legally to the institution from whom you borrowed the money. That constituted the mortgage. When you finish paying back the mortgage, then they will sign a document to put it back in your name. And because it's theirs, they can tell you, come out of it. But normally in St. Vincent and Grenadines, mortgagees, that is institutions which lend you the money, don't go into possession of premises. But I will tell you more about that next time. Okay? So if you don't repay a loan, don't think it's only sell the bank and sell you out. They can move you out of the premises and rent your home to somebody else so that the mortgage can be paid. But that is not normally done in St. Vincent and Grenadines. However, it can be done. So I will continue with the topic next week, Monday, Divi, when I come with a further presentation in this public service nation building series, The Law and You. Do have a pleasant week, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls. And once again, happy Father's Day to all the fathers of the land.
The Law and You, a look at laws in St. Vincent and the Grenadines which affect our daily lives. The Law and You, presented by lawyer panel P.R Campbell QC and brought to you on SVG-TV as a public service.